Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth podcast of ISA. Today, we are featuring our another member of the board, and as you know, she is one of the two female board members that we have, and we will talk to her, and we know her life, how, and we try to know her uh, uh, experiences, how she came out of stuttering, and how, how she's now helping people, and how she intend to help the uh, woman in stuttering. So please welcome with me, Cinthia Hieber. Welcome, Cynthia, to the
Hi,
podcast.
Ahmad. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for getting the time for the podcast. Like for like few months, we are trying to get time for the podcast, but we were not able to find to match the schedules. Yeah, thank you. So, Cynthia, do
Yes,
share.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do share with me your early life. Being a female, as we know from like 100 people, five stammer, and out of those five, only four are male and one is female. So, um how was your experience being a female stutterer? How was your childhood, and how was your early life? Yeah.
Well, until I was 30 years old, I, I didn't met anybody else with stuttering until my 30s. Imagine that. I started to stutter with 6 when my parents got divorced. Of course, that was the trigger that started the stuttering. We know nowadays that it is not psychological. It's something genetic, but I started at that age, and I didn't knew anybody else with stuttering, so it didn't make a difference to be a female in that situation, and it affected me a lot. You know, when I was about 8 years old, it was the first time that I tried to commit suicide. Imagine a child with 8 years, because I didn't see any future for my life. I thought that I would never get married, for example. That was the most important thing for me at that age. And then I was 10, and I tried it again, because I had a very severe stuttering at that age. It was not like now. Now I'm considered as a moderate person who stutters, or the stuttering is considered moderate. But at that age, it was very, very severe. Severe. I I I, I needed about a minute for a sentence of 5 words. So usually I acted like a dumb person. Is is dumb the right word? I apologize if some words are not the correct, because English is not my mother tongue. It's my third tongue. So
It's fine.
yeah, okay. And it and I was always with a little, agenda, or a piece of paper, writing down what I wanted to say and showing it, because in my country here in Paraguay, and until now still, people think that persons that stutter are uh, mentally, uh, uh, you know, retarded. That, that they are retarded. So I didn't want that for me, even though my classmates were very good. They didn't make bullying of me. Some of the other classmates from the other sections, they didn't know me well, and they, because of ignorance, o- o- obviously, they mocked me, and they did some, some funny comments about me, and that hurted. That hurts. You know that as well. And it was hard. And at the age of 30, I met for the first time a support group while I was living in Germany. And it felt so nice, so good, that I wanted to join a group when we headed back to Paraguay. And the problem was that I didn't find any group in Paraguay. There was nothing like that, or an association. And I felt very frustrated because I couldn't find anything like that. And I thought, it's so necessary. It's so nice to have a group of people that have the same condition, and that understand how you feel. But the gender thing you're mentioning, I haven't noticed any difference in that. It was the same. I mean, in Germany, okay, there were more male than women in the group, but yeah, it didn't make any difference for us as as people who stutter. So, well, that's part of my story.
Wow. Like you had the deep trauma in the childhood. Like there are very you can say narrow situations when a child think to suicide, and I'm glad you survived, and you turn out to be a wonder woman. Oh, well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, there were in total 4 attempts of suicide, and I survived them. And we're
Wow.
not talking about thoughts of suicide. Uh, that those were attempts of suicide. At
Wow.
the age of 13, I was invited to join the Paraguayan uh, national athletic team. You know,
Hmm.
the team Paraguay. So I went there because all my life I tried to um, be the best in everything I was. The best in school, the best in sports, the best in everything. So because I wanted to compensate my mother my failure, because I thought it was my failure. I am 50 now, and at that age, we're talking about 38, 39 years ago. There wasn't information about stuttering or about effective therapies, or maybe there were some, but we didn't know about them. There was no internet, so um, there was a real lack of information. And even my mother, she thought that it was just something that I made up, or that I was doing to attract some attention to me. At one point, she thought that, uh, or she slapped me, for example, on my face, because she thought sincerely that that would help. So it was a hard childhood for me. Um, and as I told you, when I was 13, I joined the national team because I was good at 100, um, 500 meters and 800 meters, Um, and there, the first time I was there, I saw for the first time a man in this group, in this team Paraguay, and I felt in love instantly. Uh, it was love at first sight, but he didn't notice me until 1 year after that first meeting. So, in
Mhm.
my desperation, because I was in love of this man, and something inside me told me that he would be my husband, but
Mhm. Oh.
but but I didn't I wasn't somebody who has a big faith or was a believer in something. I just heard this voice and I thought, never, this man will never put his eyes on me because I'm so ugly, I stutter so much, and nothing. And he was the Paraguayan record man in high jump. So I started to do high jump as well because I thought
Mhm.
some way um, we need to connect.
Yeah.
And then I also had a national record. I did a national record in high jump. So he
Wow.
registered me after a year, after a little more than a year. But remember that I said that whenever I was or wherever I was new, I acted like a dumb person. So he didn't know that I could speak. But I don't know how he found out that I could speak, that, that I was a person who stutters. So one day he asked me if I wanted to be healed from that, you know? And I said, "Oh, how did he found out that I am a person who stutters?" And okay, I was happy because he talked to me, but on the other side, I was disappointed because he found out my struggle, my problem. And I said, "Yes, of course, I want to be healed of this." Uh, and then he said that he knew somebody that healed this stuttering. So he did an appointment for me.
Mhm.
The next day, he appeared with a piece of paper, and there was an address, a date, and an hour. So I was so happy that he did that for me, and I showed it to my mother. And at the end of the week, she asked me if I was sure about the date and the hour because it was on a Sunday. So I said, I don't know, but at that time, that there weren't any cell phones or internet or something to ask him again. So she took me there on a Sunday, and it showed up that it was a church, and I was so disappointed. My mother as well because she thought it was a doctor,
Okay.
And okay, I was disappointed as well, but just for being with him on a Sunday, um, it it shadowed all the other things around. So I just had eyes for him. So he told me to go in the front at the end of the service, and that the pastor would pray for all the people that have a necessity, an illness or something like that. So I went to the front, and he prayed for me. He asked me if I knew Jesus, and I said yes, I know him, but there was nothing else than that. I just have heard about him. I didn't have any personal relationship to him. So he prayed for me, and nothing happened. I I stepped out of the church the same way I stepped in. So, but after a few weeks, um, I was just doing some exercises. We were the last four of us at that day, and there was Umberto, this guy who invited me, and there were some other two friends, a friend of mine, a girl, and she was already married to the other man, and she knew that I was in love of him, and she told her husband that, and he, in front of me, he said to Umberto, are you stupid or what? Uh, uh, because don't you see that this girl is in love with you and that she's dying for you from love and anxiety, and you don't seem to notice that. And I was so ashamed at that moment. Imagine a girl, I was 15 at that moment, and I was so ashamed. I left the place and I didn't came back in 3 months.
Mhm.
So when I came back in a very shy way, I noticed that he wasn't there as well. So I I I asked around, what happened to him, why he is not being training, and they told me that he was injured at his back, so he had to have some rest, and he wasn't coming. And then I just felt this impulse in me, inside of me, that I had to call him to ask how he was going. But with a severe stuttering, we don't do this. We don't call through phone. It was the most disgusting thing I could do. I hated it. I never called anybody by phone. I asked my mother to do it or somebody, because you're on the phone and the words don't come out, and the people just hang
Yeah,
up. Just
exactly.
hang up the phone. Yeah.
Exactly.
But I felt just this inside of me, and I found out his number. A friend of mine, in a very shy way, I asked for his phone because he was my colleague in high jump. So I had this excuse to to call him, because at 30 years ago, and so as a girl, you don't call a man, or you don't ask him to, to be your boyfriend. Until now, I think it's not correct. The man has to ask the woman. So, but I called him. And when I called him, he attended the phone, and he said he was okay already and he will be back the next week. So that was all. It went well. And after a few weeks, he declared love to me, and we were officially friends. I was his girlfriend, and he my boyfriend at the age of 15, and he was 19. The
Mhm.
incredible thing after that, after a few months or years maybe, he told me that after that very embarrassing episode, you know, he asked asked God in prayer that if I am the woman for him, uh, um, to marry me, I asked, he asked God for a proof that uh, if I was, then I should call him per phone. That was his proof from God, or his confirmation from God that I am the woman for his life. Imagine that. So after a few, yeah, so it was something, incredible, and well, but I still had this severe stuttering. We were friends for 6 years. I'll make it a little bit shorter because it's sometimes too long. He says all the times, your story is too long, you're boring people. But
No, no, it's not
besides,
boring.
thank you. The,
It's very, uh, interesting. just like a roller coaster. Please carry on.
Thank you. In the next 6 years, when we were dating, I became, after 3 years, I became an atheist. You know what an atheist is.
Yeah.
I didn't believe in God, I didn't believe in Jesus, and nobody, nothing. And we all the time di- discussed a lot about of this. And he got a little bit desesperated because uh, he's a man of faith. And actually, the man who was holding the service at the church, he was his father. So he was the
Hmm.
pastor's
Okay.
son, and the pastor's son cannot marry somebody who has another faith. You know, it was a problem for him. So he was praying a lot for me, and we were discussing about God and and creation and everything about that. And and at one time, when I had to decide to choose a career, my mother asked me at that time, what do you want to study? And I mentioned it already. I studied forest engineering, but it was not because I wanted that or I loved it, because um, my mother, when I told her that I want to study um, a certain profession, she said, but Cynthia, in that profession, you have to talk a lot. You have to talk to a lot of people, and a lot is through telephone, and you cannot talk. She said, and even though I knew that I had a very severe problem with talking, it hurted me. It hurts when your mother says that you uh, cannot talk. Nowadays, I know, and I forgave her, of course. I know that she did it because she wanted to protect me from, all the mobbing, maybe, or the difficulties of working in a profession where you have to talk a lot, or do a lot of talking. So that was my fourth attempt of suicide, and I fell into a deep depression. And after that, I decided to look for a career where I do not have to talk, or not a lot. And I found forest engineering. But at the moment I decided to study that, it was the 30 of December uh, of the year I finished school. And to get into the university, in the state university, you have to have some exams, you know and 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 I just had 1 month for that exam. Those were 5 exams, and uh, normal people already prepare 1 year before these exams to get into the state university, because it's for free. All the people want to get into this state
Yeah.
university, and it's the best as well. So I just had 1 month, and I was about to wait, or to prepare myself for a year and have the exams the next year. But my boyfriend said, why don't you try now? Just study 1 month. You have a good preparation from school, and you were the best in school, so just try it. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And at that moment, he was very desperate about me and my atheism. And told me, why don't you ask God that he proves his existence to you, because I don't know what to say anymore to you. So I saw my opportunity at that moment, and I asked God that if He really exists, I would do all that was in my possibilities to prepare for these exams. But if He exists, I want to get into university, and not only get into the university, I want to be the number one in getting into university, the highest score of the whole
Yeah.
faculty. It's the faculty of agronomics in Paraguay. So
Hmm.
I had this 1 month, and I prepared myself in everything, in math, Spanish, physics, biology, um, chemistry, and what's the other one? I don't remember. Biology, I said it already. So I had the 5 exams, and I got in, and I had the highest score.
Wow, wow, that's really great.
So after that, I I accepted this plan he offered me. My boyfriend explained me all about that, about accepting God's sacrifice in sending his son, um, who died at the cross, and okay, and accept him in my life. I just surrendered, and I said yes to everything, because I had to be faithful to my word, because I said, okay, if you demonstrate that, I will follow your way, your path. And I started to read about it and to pray, and okay, and accept it, and accept the the plan of God for my life. So here I am after that. In a span of 2 years after doing this, I had an improvement in my speech.
Wow,
In a span of 2 years, it went from a fluency of about 5% to a fluency of 80%.
wow.
Yes, and I wondered all the next years. I had this existential crisis in me, and this internal problem with God, because what is His problem? You know, uh, it wouldn't have cost Him anything to give me 100% fluency. Why just 80? Because He is the Almighty God. He is the, nothing is impossible for Him, says the Bible. So why? And I still, at that moment, I still never talked about stuttering. Never, with nobody. When my mother sent me to speech therapy when I was about 12, 13, um, she just said, you have an appointment there at this time, and just be there. And nothing else. It wasn't okay because of your stuttering. Let's try to do something about it. No, it's just, you have an appointment, and just go there. So I went. But as I said, at that time, there were no speech therapists in Paraguay that knew about stuttering, or that have specialized in stuttering. So
Okay.
the therapies they used are considered very archaic
Mhm.
nowadays. You know. So um, I didn't talk about stuttering with nobody. Well, okay, with my husband, I talked about it, but not very much. But I didn't talk about it until my early 30s, when I met the support groups in Germany.
Ah,
When we
okay.
were living in Germany from my from 2003 to 2007. We, we, we lived in Germany, and I was so happy that I found this group. And when I was back, I didn't find anything like that. And 9 years passed since I was back in Paraguay, searching for a support group. I waited a year and I searched again and there was nothing. And I said, okay, I'll wait another a year and I'll search again. And there was nothing again, and so on and so on. And 9 years passed until at that moment I was at the board. I was the treasurer of the Paraguayan Association of Evangelical Churches. I just mentioned this kind of things where I am also in, the Latin American Evangelical Alliance, the Women Commission, because I think it's important for other people with stuttering to see that we can also impact or work in other spheres, of influence. And it's not only in the stuttering community or
Yeah.
whatever. I have been treasurer there for 8 years, and now I am treasurer again in this big association here in Paraguay, where all the different evangelical denominations are.
Mhm.
So, well, that's from another another point. I'm sorry, I mix a lot, uh, but what I was telling you is that I was at the board at that moment. I remember the moment because it was in a session of the board, and I see somebody sends me per WhatsApp a screenshot of a letter of an 11 years old boy from my country who committed suicide because of his
Oh,
stutter. He didn't, he couldn't handle it anymore because of the mocking, the bullying of his classmates, and he decided to take that decision, and he left that letter for his parents and he committed suicide. When I saw this, I heard this voice in my heart that from God saying to me, that's why I didn't heal you 100% from your stuttering. You know, I know that we usually don't say heal from stuttering because it's not an illness, it's a condition. But I heard just that, and in my case, it was healing. But yeah, because I had to open this support group for people who stutter. At that moment, I just uh, remembered all my childhood struggling with stuttering and not knowing anybody else was stuttering, and I thought, if this child would have had, at least parents who know how to deal with the situation, or other young people with his condition, and being together, feeling supported, maybe the situation would have been another. He would be still alive, maybe. So, well, at that moment, I started the support group, and I can say that at this moment, I thank God for my stuttering, because it gives me the opportunity or it gave me the opportunity to find my purpose in life. And I'm so sure about what I'm doing now, and helping the parents, helping the people with stuttering of my country, and maybe I hope in the whole w- world through this podcast as well. So, well, I started it in a very shy way. Uh, the first year, just sharing written messages through WhatsApp, through Facebook, and so on. But after a year, I noticed we are not reaching the people we need to reach. And I know in my subconsciousness, I just struggled with this, because it's showing yourself. Um it's exposing yourself. But I knew, very in my back head, that I had to go to television, to radio, because otherwise the people don't know that we exist.
Yeah.
So I started to do that in 2018, and I've not stopped since there, doing conferences and speaking in meetings, and all that stuff. Yeah. So that's my story. Oh, 40 minutes already. Okay. After, let's go to
Wow.
you.
Yeah, like your your life is just like a movie, there is drama, there is romance, and there is tragedy, so many things. It's just like a movie. Wow. You are like, the circumstances and the moments in your life has forged you into this strong woman today. And that's really amazing, because you have found your purpose. Like I went through the same thing. Like, I have all the intellect and all those abilities, but I was not able to talk to people, not able to communicate. So why is that? So then I thought, like, everything in the world has a purpose. So my stammering also have a purpose. So that thought, that mindset changed all the things. So I think same happened with you. And when you got that thought, when you read the letter of the child, his death, I think that that has transformed you and your life into something great, to help people, to build a better world, not only for people who stutter, but also to help people in the country and um, around the world. That's really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
yeah, so yeah, most welcome. So when you have been here in Paraguay, and you also spent some time in Germany. So what uh, cultural uh, differences you have seen, like with regard to stuttering, both in Paraguay and and in Germany, and how you compare both.
Okay, yeah. In Germany, people are very open with their condition. In the support group, we were about 20 or 25 attendants every meeting. It was wa- once a month, once a month, and people talk very openly about it. And in Paraguay, we have the difficulty in the group that people come to the group. A lot of them join in the WhatsApp group, but they never come to a session.
Hmm.
And when you talk to them, or sometimes also to the parents or the girlfriend, um, they tell me that they read everything I write in the WhatsApp group, but they are afraid to come to the group. Most of them don't talk about it in family. They don't talk about it at work, um, or, or or in their school or university. Uh, we still have that difficulty with stuttering in my home country, in Paraguay.
Hmm.
Um, yes, it's still like a taboo. We are working against that,
Hmm.
doing awareness work a lot, and yeah, but it's still difficult. I remember when we did the screening of the documentary film When I Stutter, you know, um, w- we sold the entrances, you know, how you call that, the tickets to go to the cinema. And
Okay.
at the end, at the end at the day, everybody had to pay and to respond for the tickets that they took. Just two of us sold tickets, and the other one is the vice chair, and she's a person who does not stutter. She's a psychologist, but she loves the cause and everything. She's a volunteer, and the, the other people uh, don't even sold the tickets to her to her or his family because they were ashamed of it. They are still ashamed of their condition, so they went to the screening, but yeah, some brought his mother or his sister or whatever, but very less. But after we watched the movie, um, I I I went into the front and I explained about the support group and what we would use the money we raised there. It was to settle the Paraguayan Association of Stuttering. And I just asked if somebody of the group would come with me in the front so that the people sees that it's not only me, because all the time it was only me speaking in TV, in radio, and I thought as well, maybe people think that it's just me and I'm talking here about support group and people with stuttering in Paraguay, but they can never see anybody else. But at that moment, all the group came to the front with me, and uh, it was so great because they wanted to take some pictures and to post them in Facebook, because this this the documentary film is very good. I think you have seen it as well, and it did such a good work in these people from the support group, uh, as well as other people, the awareness work. But they were so enthusiastic about that, and they wanted to show people that they are as valued, as that they value the same as the people who do not stutter, and that they were so empowered through this documentary. And I was so thankful because of that. It really made a change in them, and since then they don't hide their stuttering anymore. So that was a big um, um, victory for us in in the support group.
Yeah, well, that's true. It just take one person to make the change, and you
Mhm.
have done that. That's really great. And your story, your efforts are really inspiring, not only for myself, but stammerers around the globe. Yeah. So we can say that in short that, like, in Germany people are more open towards stuttering, but back in here, Paraguay, people still, you can say, they are not that much open to stuttering. They feel like this is a stigma or a taboo thing, right? But I think
No,
yeah.
you're right. No, they don't think it's a stigma or a taboo. Uh, Differently, it is in countries where I I was in Kenya a month ago, and I told my story to a group of people who are from the Muslim faith, and
Hmm.
we discussed this. We had cohort groups after my story, And one of the questions, for example, was, um, is this a punishment of God? For example, and most of them thought that it is. The other question was, is do you talk about this in family? Because most of them knew somebody who has this condition and nobody talks about this. So, well, it's different from culture to culture, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It is different, indeed. Yeah. Yeah. So, like being a woman, how you compare yourself with the male stutterers? Do you think mental health play a main role? Women who stutter, they have more mental health issues than men.
Mm, could be. I've never analyzed it from that point of view. But in my situation, I struggled a lot with mental health, depression and so on. Uh, but the people I know here, men have men used to stay, like mute more here in the
Yeah.
land, and women they just they just push, and they t- talk even though they are people who stutter. I remember some situations on the phone when I call, for example, to a call center or the insurance or whatever. I in the past I just hang on. I just hang up. No, hang. How you say when
Yeah.
you hang
Hang
up?
up.
I hang up uh, when they say there are some interferences on the phone. Please hang up and call again. And now I say that no, and I just breathe, and I use some technique so I wouldn't stutter, and I just say no. I am a person who stutters. I
Wow.
just need a little bit more time to talk. After
Exactly.
that, yes, after that, they are very sweet with me, on the phone, very kind to me. And I do the same when I am, in person
Yeah.
at the bank, uh, because in those situations, I often notice that at the first moment they just say, you know, yes, ma'am, how can we help you, and so on. In Spanish there is a difference. You don't say you in English is you can say you to a child or to the bank director, but in Spanish you say you to somebody who is
Two, right? Two.
yeah,
Two.
yeah, and you say usted to a
Instead.
person who is, high in a higher position or is older than you, and they always treat me as that second, as an older person or a lady, and but after I talk, they treat me like a child, and that upsets me, that I get really mad at them when they do that, because they think again that I am retired or something like that. That's why they talk to me like that. So I just clarify them, and I do some awareness work at that moment about people who stutter. So yeah. But about your question again, it's just some personal sides that I think that men just go inside of them, that they prefer not to talk, and women, we just try to talk, uh, even though we stutter, or yeah, that's the main difference I can see.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It is. Men are less talkative than men, and in my personal experience, uh, the females who stutter, the mental health issues are more deeper. But also in
Mm.
men, it varies. Is just my journal observation. Yeah. So we are moving towards the end of the podcast. So what are your plans in Paraguay uh, uh, regarding stuttering? Like what, what you think could be done to make life better for people who stutter in Paraguay?
Yes. Well, I want to do awareness work, these conferences, and show this documentary film in all the schools of Paraguay. I am now talking to the people, to the authorities of the ministry here of education, and we want to sign a kind of agreement to do this, to show the documentary film and to tell my story in the schools, in the secondary schools of, at first. And then I would like to have a support group for people who stutter in every departmental capital,
Mhm.
because we have 17 departments or states, in
Right.
Paraguay, and
Mhm.
each state has a capital, or the main city, and I would like to have there a support group. We have a lot of people in the support group who lives in the countryside, and they can come to the support group. We did it through Zoom, or in a virtual way through the pandemic, but it's not the same, and
Yeah.
it's not the same as being face to face. So those are the main plans. Next to that, I also would like to do some awareness work in churches, for example, so they can be more inclusive, and not only for people who stutter, for people who can see, or cannot hear, or have another, can't walk, all this kind of disabilities, because yeah, church as well has not been uh, inclusive as they have to be, so yeah, awareness work. We need to fundraise for all that, because all that takes a lot of time and money to do that. um and well, that's my main purpose for the next
Wow,
5 years.
amazing. So now you are in the board of ISA. So what has motivated you to be in the board, and what you think how ISA can help the people who stutter around the globe?
Well, I I believe, and I love unity. Together we are stronger. So when at the International Stuttering Congress in Montreal, where I went as and I was an expositor in a poster format. I was there. I met the board of the ISA. It was just no, um, it wasn't planned. I just sat on the table. They were, because I was looking for a free chair, and they were there, and we were talking. I told them my story because they just asked, and they invited me to be on the board. So it wasn't my idea, and but I loved it from the first time because, as I said, I think that united we are stronger, and being there as Paraguayan Stuttering Association, being part of the ISA, um, we have more influence than alone. Alone
Yeah, that's true.
doing the good things, doing awareness work, being together, and some if for example in Paraguay it happened at that point. I wasn't on the ISA yet, but in Paraguay, it it was a public thing that when a person here, a very public person, offended someone who is a journalist. He does television here, journalist, and he offended him very badly. Saying that saying in on TV, saying, yeah, that stupid stutterer, like an offense, and we did a declaration at that moment as a stuttering association about that was not right, and that yeah, we wrote a long letter about that. But maybe if the ISA would have joined for this, it would have been more, there would have been a bigger impact of
Yeah,
that as well.
it is.
So
It is.
yeah, that's my motivation.
Yeah,
I believe in unity as
yeah.
a
Like,
force.
you know, we need to show those people, if we don't resist, then they will keep doing that, number
Mm-hmm,
one, and number two, they won't uh, understand. But
mm-hmm,
when we resist, we tell them it's not right and how we feel.
mm-hmm.
I hope that will change their thoughts and mindset. Yeah.
Yes, me as well.
Yeah. So my last question to you. We have taken so much your precious time. Uh, Being a stutter, female who stutters, what message you want to give to people who stutter, all across the world?
Okay. Well, my message is, don't lose hope. I have hope. I think that God could have healed me, healed me. I say it on purpose, totally, 100%. But in that case, I wouldn't have done anything of what I have done in the last 8 years. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have founded the support group for people who started. Maybe they there wouldn't be any Paraguayan Association of Stuttering, uh, because I would have continued my life without thinking about people who stutter. So I think God had a purpose on this, and even though the ISA and the Paraguayan Stuttering Association and the support group are not, religious groups, but I have a story, and I had an experience that is very personal, and I tell it because it's part of my story. So I I'm motivated because of these two things. I think that God is hope for people who have a very severe stuttering, like I had in my youth. And on the other side, if he doesn't, he has always a purpose, even though you have a severe stuttering. And there are nowadays mechanisms and techniques that can help as well, people who has a severe stuttering. And I think that God gives this wisdom to people, to the speech therapists, to develop this kind of techniques that you can use or I can use. I am not using them right now. I can, and if I
I know.
use them, I won't stutter. But
Yeah,
we do awareness work. So if you go to TV or radio, they expect somebody who stutters. So I don't worry about that anymore. In my beginnings, I was very nervous. The first time in TV, the first time on radio, oh, it was, it was very heavy. But after that, I thought, hey, they are expecting somebody who stutters. So what's the
yeah.
problem with it?
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you so much for being here today. The podcast was amazing. I have learned so much from you. You inspired me, and I hope the people who will watch this, they will learn so much more from you, and they will get the real inspiration from you. And yeah,
Thank you so
and
much. Thank you so much, Ahmad,
thank you
for your patience, for your
so
time as well. And God bless you.
thank you for being here today, and I hope this podcast will bring a new hope to life of many people who stutter. Thank you so much. So, dear viewers, this was our podcast. So, do like, subscribe, and share it, and share it with people who you love, and also with people who stutter. The story of Cynthia is very inspiring and heart touching, and hope to see you all in the next um, uh, uh, um, uh, uh, episode. And see you then. Bye.